From ancient scrolls to modern satellites, from swords to ballistic missiles, Israel has survived and even triumphed in ways that defy logic. Some call it strategy. Others call it luck. But to those with eyes of faith, there's only one explanation. God never stopped fighting for Israel. This is not just a tale of military genius. These are the moments when the impossible happened, when enemies fled without reason, when rockets fell but did not explode, and when winds rose at the exact second to shift the trajectory of death. Welcome to Books of the Elite, where biblical prophecy collides with real-world history. What you're about to hear are not just stories, they're signs. Let's begin. 1. Operation Rising Lion. Heaven's precision in the age of drones. In 2025, Iran launched a massive assault on Israel. Hundreds of ballistic missiles, suicide drones, and cruise missiles aimed at civilian centers, military bases, and strategic sites. Israel responded with a counterstrike called Operation Rising Lion. It required navigating 2,000 miles of hostile airspace, coordinating over 1,100 drones, stealth fighters, cyber units, and special ops. It should have failed. One error would collapse the mission, but the result? 0 aircraft were shot down, no drones lost communication. Every target was hit with near-perfect accuracy. A Western journalist wrote, "This wasn't just strategy. It was like something, or someone was orchestrating it from above." And an Israeli commander said, trembling, "It all worked too perfectly. Doors opened when we arrived. Systems unlocked at the second we needed." This wasn't just skill, it was guided. Scripture echoed through the silence. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14-2, 1948, when the bullets refused to hit. May 14, 1948, Israel declares independence. Within hours, 5 Arab nations declare war. Israel had no real army. Survivors of the Holocaust defended the new nation with rusted guns, axes, and sheer faith. In Gush Etzion, 20-1 odds. Yet Arab bullets missed at point-blank range. One survivor said they weren't missing because they were bad shooters. Something was deflecting the bullets. In Jerusalem's old city, artillery rained down, but a synagogue stood untouched, while everything around it collapsed. Psalm 91:7 came alive. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. 3. 2025, a rain of missiles, a shield. From heaven. In 2025, Iran launched over 600 missiles and drones toward Tel Aviv, Haifa, Beersheba, even Jerusalem. Israel's layered defense system, Iron Dome, David's sling, Arrow 2, Arrow 3 activated, over 90% interception rate. A number the world considered impossible. But that was just the beginning. One missile veered off 5 seconds before hitting a crowded apartment block. A drone lost GPS and crashed harmlessly in the desert. A family changed roads due to a GPS glitch minutes before their original route was hit. Isaiah 54:17 was not poetry. It was real. No weapon forged against you will prevail. 4. 1948, when angels in white appeared during the 1948 war, Egypt advanced with tanks and artillery toward Tel Aviv. Israel's southern defenses were minimal old rifles, few men. Then it happened. Egyptian troops saw shining white figures on the hills, glowing, tall, silent. They panicked. Some dropped weapons and fled. A captured Egyptian officer said, "We were surrounded, not by men, but by beings of light." There were no Israeli units in that location. A Haganah commander wrote in his journal, "We didn't see the angels, but our enemies did." And Elisha prayed, "O Lord, open his eyes so he may see." Then the Lord opened the servant's eyes, and he looked and saw the hills full of horses and chariots of fire. 2 Kings 6:17, 5, 1967. 6 days, 3 fronts, one miracle. June 1967. Egypt, Syria, and Jordan encircle Israel. 500,000 soldiers, 900 tanks, 450 jets. Everyone said, "This is the end." Israel launched a preemptive airstrike Operation Focus. Within 3 hours, most of Egypt's air force was destroyed. On the ground. But here's the twist. Egypt's radar had been turned off for 2 hours that morning for training. That exact 2-hour window was when Israel struck. No Israeli jets were lost in the first wave. A NATO general said, "Without divine intervention, this operation was impossible." Isaiah 31:5 whispered, "Like birds hovering overhead, the Lord Almighty will shield Jerusalem." 6. 2025. Soroka Hospital silent escape. June 2025. Iran targets Soroka Medical Center in Beersheba with a ballistic missile. But hours before the strike, hospital management mysteriously relocated the surgery wing due to logistics restructuring. The missile hit directly where surgeries had been underway hours earlier. Not a single person injured. And even more bizarre, the warhead didn't detonate properly. A nurse whispered, "If we were 30 minutes late, none of us would be alive." Exodus 12 echoed, "The Lord said, 'Stay in your houses, for I will pass through.'" 7. 1973 Yom Kippur. When the week rose in heaven roared. October 6, 1973. Yom Kippur, the holiest day in the Jewish calendar. The nation fasted, prayed, and remained still. Then came the strike. Egypt and Syria launched a surprise, coordinated attack. Israeli defenses collapsed. The nation teetered on the edge of destruction. Prime Minister Golda Meir considered deploying nuclear weapons. We were standing at the edge of a cliff, and the wind was blowing hard. Then something stirred. Tens of thousands of reserve soldiers, uncalled, uncommanded, rushed to the front lines. They broke their fast, grabbed their old rifles, and said, "If we don't fight today, no one will be left to pray tomorrow." In the Sinai, Egyptian tanks broke down en masse. In the north, Israeli pilots performed impossible aerial maneuvers. One U.S. officer reviewing the footage said, "Either they have secret tech or someone is guiding those jets from above." Within 18 days, Israel had turned the tide, crossed the Suez, and surrounded enemy armies. The Lord is a warrior. The Lord is his name. Exodus 15:3, 8, 2024 to 2025. When the missiles vanished during Iran's missile onslaught in 2024 to 2025, something strange happened. Some missiles exploded mid-air. Some disappeared from radar, never landing. Some veered off and hit empty deserts. One long-range missile simply vanished. Israel sent drones to find debris. They found nothing. An Israeli commander said, "Half the projectiles they launched never reached us. Not because we stopped them, but because they never arrived." Psalm 33:10 was recalled. The Lord foils the plans of the nations. He thwarts the purposes of the peoples. 9. Valley of Tears, 44 against 500 Yom Kippur War, Northern Front. Golan Heights. In what would be known as the Valley of Tears, 44 Israeli tanks faced 500 Syrian tanks. Outnumbered 11-1. No reinforcements. No support, no sleep, no food. They fought for 4 days, then Syria stopped. They withdrew. Without warning, no orders. No reason. Captured Syrian commanders later said, "We thought it was a trap. We heard enemy reinforcements. We saw tanks coming down the hill. But there were no reinforcements. No tanks. The Israelis saw nothing. The Syrians saw everything. The hills were full of chariots of fire." 2 Kings 6:17, 10, 1991. 39 Scud missiles. 0 deaths in the Gulf War. Saddam Hussein fired 39 Scud missiles into Israel. Massive Warheads targeting dense cities. Israel was told not to retaliate. They had to stand still. Missiles crashed into neighborhoods, markets, schools, but no one died. One missile hit a school closed unexpectedly that day. Another struck a market 15 minutes after it closed early. A third hit a building that had lost power and people were sheltering in basements. A soldier counted casualties and wept. Not one soul, not one. The guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. Psalm 121:11, 2006. When rockets refused to explode in the 2006 Lebanon war, Hezbollah fired thousands of rockets at Israeli cities. One rocket pierced the roof of a kindergarten where 30 children usually played. That day, the school was closed. Another rocket hit a synagogue during prayer time, but the rabbi was late, and everyone was outside. The rockets didn't explode. Over 20% of Hezbollah's missiles failed to detonate. A rabbi in Haifa whispered, it wasn't that they were faulty, it was that they were not permitted to explode. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10-12, 2014. The wind that changed everything in the 2014 Gaza conflict. A Hamas rocket targeted Tel Aviv, Iron Dome fired, and missed. The missile kept flying on course to a densely populated area. Suddenly, a gust of wind from the sea blew it off course. It crashed into an empty field, just 300 meters away from homes. Meteorologists confirmed that wind didn't belong to any forecast. A child was asked who saved them. He said, God blew it away. Like birds hovering, the Lord Almighty will shield Jerusalem. Isaiah 31:5-13, 2014. The vanishing missile. Another Hamas missile flew toward Ben Gurion Airport. Iron Dome couldn't intercept. Time to impact, 24 seconds. At second 17. It vanished from radar. No explosion. No debris. A military spokesperson said, it wasn't intercepted. It wasn't jammed. It just ceased to exist. Where did it go? Nobody knows. He will not let your foot slip. He who watches over you will not sleep. Psalm 121:14, 2012. The 6-word text that saved 30 lives in 2012. In a quiet town in southern Israel, a Torah class of 30 elderly students gathered every week. On that day, they received a sudden message. Class canceled today. See you next week. Minutes later, a rocket struck their classroom. The roof collapsed. The room was pulverized, but it was empty. No deaths. No injuries, just a 6-word text. And a miracle. A rabbi later said, sometimes God doesn't shout, he simply whispers in your heart. And if you listen, you'll live. 2021. When the rocket stopped mid-air during the 2021 Gaza conflict, a camera captured something surreal. A rocket flew upward, then paused, mid-air, as if held in place. For 7 seconds, it hovered, then spun and fell into an empty field. Unexploded. The military confirmed. It wasn't intercepted. It wasn't jammed. It just stopped. A woman nearby said, I was reading Psalm 91 when I saw the flash, but nothing happened. Everything was still. When man cannot, God can. Psalm 33:10-16, 2021. The soldier who saw an angel during a night patrol near the Gaza border. Israeli soldiers saw a tall, glowing figure standing silently next to their jeep. No uniform, no weapon, just light. Seconds later, they moved the jeep. Minutes later, a rocket landed exactly where it had been. A young soldier said, I'm not religious, but I believe we saw an angel. The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him and delivers them. Psalm 34:7-17. A pattern too precise to ignore. These stories aren't just tales of survival. Bullets that miss, missiles that vanish, enemies who flee from invisible armies, winds that blow at the exact second, Hospitals and schools empty by coincidence, or are they? Zechariah 2-8 says, "Whoever touches Israel touches the apple of God's eye." So we ask again, is this coincidence? Or is it covenant? Conclusion: the God who still fights, from the angel that wiped out 185,000 soldiers in a single night, to the silent rocket that never landed. From ancient scrolls to modern headlines, one thing remains clear: Israel's greatest ally is not a nation. It is the living God. If you believe He's still protecting His people, let your share be your testimony. Subscribe to Books of the Elite, where forgotten truths rise again in light of Scripture. Leave a comment. What miracle made you believe God still fights? Because He never slumbers. And He is not done yet.